Hello, everyone. Welcome to Small Biz Tips. Today, guys, I have an amazing guest. I can't wait for you to hear his story. Greg, what's going on, man?
Hey, Gilbert. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on. I appreciate you. So, before we get going, who is Greg?
Oh man, that's a loaded question, huh? Well, I guess I could say I'm a lifelong entrepreneur. That would be true.
I love it.
Yeah, I started my first business out of high school after a day after I graduated in 1998,
Wow.
which was an IT company, and then went on to sell that in 2010. But in 2006, I started my current company, Municibid, and we just turned 18 the other day. So my whole life has been
Wow.
entrepreneurial, even as far back as I can remember, with of course lemonade stands and mowing lawns and shoveling driveways and all that.
Well, so first, congratulations. I think that's huge milestone. Second, you started your entrepreneurial journey about the same time I started and when I was 18.
Nice.
So I love that story. And I'm curious, let's kind of stay there for a second. You know, around 1998, you had the dot-com boom. A lot of people were either working for startups. What made you decide, hey, I'm gonna start a business instead?
Yeah, so I had a lot of awesome opportunities while I was in high school. I mean, I was
Okay.
always, I had my first computer in 1988 or 89 and just
Mm,
kind of loved messing around with it. My mom worked and managed a help desk at a pharmaceutical company. So she would always bring home computer books and like tech magazines and stuff like that. So I mean, I think I built my first computer when I was like 12 or 13 or
wow.
something like that. And that was pretty early days. And so I remember I kind of like made my way through making like a tic-tac-toe game, and
That's
that kind of
awesome.
thing. So yeah, I mean, it was pretty early. So, I guess I was just a computer nerd at birth. But
Hey, guess what?
um
It helps, right?
yeah. So and then in high school I had some really nice opportunities. So they had this apprenticeship program
Mhm.
which I participated in. And basically my junior and senior year, that allowed me to work 2 days out of the week and go to school for
Mm,
3 days. So and get paid for it. So on
nice.
Thursdays and Fridays, I would go to my apprentice job, which the first one was at my mom's pharmaceutical company. Started off in what they call the computer engineering department, which
Mm,
was basically the department that connected the computers to the machines and presses and all that stuff.
gotcha.
That didn't really get me that excited. So I wanted to be in the IT department doing the networking and that kind
Yeah.
of. So while I was doing that, I had a sales job at Sears.
Mhm.
So I was selling computers and electronics there at night.
Wow.
And then on my nights off, I was going to classes at a local, I guess, school company, get Microsoft certifications, Nobel certifications at the time.
Wow. You were
And
passionate,
then,
man.
yeah, I was into it. Like I was, just kind of into it and loved it, and knew though that, by the time I graduated high school with the experience I had in the real world setting,
Mhm.
and then my junior year, by the way, I moved to a small company, to a small business. I
Mm,
got out of the pharmaceutical company, and I realized very early on that the pharmaceutical corporate route was not for me. Uh,
mm.
and that the small business, being an entrepreneur and that end was way more my style and speed. So that
That's
was a great
awesome.
opportunity. So yeah, so I just basically had all this real world experience and these highly sought after certifications by the time I was done high school. I did go to a small local college, just got
Yeah.
an associate's degree, but honestly, it wasn't even needed thankfully with the certifications and that sort of thing. I had enough credibility to start my business.
Let me ask you
And
this,
uh,
because you being able to start that company and then grew it and exit it, right? Tell us a little bit about the top 2 to 3 lessons you learned in that first go around as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest one would be about building a team. So I was really
Mm,
doing it all. This was pre Y2K, so it was a ton of work, and I was just kind of all over the place managing school. I moved all my as many classes as I could to the nighttime, so I could focus on serving my business clients during the day.
wow.
And I was doing it all myself. had I known what I know now, I would have had a couple technicians, a couple sales people, and and I was just kind of making the things happen. And so, that was probably a lesson. I don't know how early I learned that lesson. It took me probably longer than I hoped to learn that. But yeah.
No, but that's good that you learned it early on, right? Because that's I'm pretty sure that helps you to really get the company in a position where it was sellable.
Yeah. So the way that worked, and that was an interesting process, is I knew that I wanted to get out of the IT business because
Hmm.
the company now Municibid that I have that I started in 2006 was really starting to take off, and that
Mm,
was a bigger opportunity and something I was more interested in and more passionate about at that time than I was in IT stuff. I had kind of got myself burnt out, probably because I was
hmm.
trying to do all the things.
Everything.
And yeah, exactly. And so it now over the years I did have a team and that sort of thing, but in 2009 I partnered with another company, another IT
Mm,
company, with the idea that at some point I would sell essentially my half to
gotcha.
them, and
Gotcha.
just so that there was a smooth sort of transition, and that happened about a year later in 2010.
That's smart that you already had the foresight once you saw something taking off. And you're like, well, I can't handle both of them at the same time and be able to kind of slowly kind of like remove yourself from that other opportunity. Now, I'm curious, tell us more about Municibid because I think that's the most fascinating company I've heard all year.
Oh man,
So,
thank you. Appreciate
so
that.
what is that? And tell us more details about that.
Well, so in 2004 or five, I guess it was 2005, an
Mm-hmm.
opportunity came up to run for my local town council, city council.
Okay.
And there was a seat that had come open. The longtime councilman had been retiring, and so the
Mm-hmm.
seat was open. And so I kind of had a little bit of interest in politics, and just being in the town I was in. It was the town I was raised in.
Yeah.
The time I was married, I owned a home there, and so I was really ingrained into the community. And so this opportunity came about, and I knew some things about politics, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like kind of interesting to me. So I decided to take a shot and run for office. So I campaigned. I had a primary election,
Wow.
which I won, and then moved on to a general election. Both were very competitive races, which was a great learning lesson as well. Literally going door to door, knocking on doors,
That's
asking
like
for.
sales.
But honestly, that didn't come that hard to me. I was going door to door when I was in middle school, selling magazines and other stuff to
Wow.
like raise money and earn candy and stuff.
No,
So
it's awesome. Those
yeah,
experiences are serving you well.
yeah, for sure. So then when I got elected to council, and when I was kind of very early on in, I'd say in 2006, early 2006, I noticed right away we were having this problem where we would sell like a used police car that we no longer needed, and we
Mm,
sell it for $300, even though the blue book value was $3,000. And it was
mm.
only because of the process that we were using to sell this stuff. And as it turned out, many other towns across the state and country were still using the same outdated process, which basically
Yeah.
was like put an ad in the legal section of the newspaper, the classified section of the newspaper, and hope that someone would show up, and they'd have to go to the town hall, fill out a bunch of paperwork, place one bid, and that was
Wow.
it. And then so what happened is no one knew these items were for sale except for maybe one or two people, and they would come down, fill out paperwork, and then we'd have a bid for 300 and we'd have a bid for 200, so we take the $300 bid. And then the next
Wow.
agenda item later, we're arguing over $1,000. I'm like, wait a second, I just gave away $3,000. And so that's kind of where that's sort of where it started. And then, so I started doing some research and saw that
Hmm.
many other cities and towns were dealing with the same thing. And so put my IT background to work, built this rudimentary auction platform online, understanding the requirements that governments have
Hmm.
for accepting bids and that sort of thing. And fortunate to get a couple surrounding municipalities to give it a shot, and it
Yeah.
worked. And
Wow.
that's kind of where it started. So
So
yeah.
you literally built like the eBay for the municipalities.
Yeah, we get called the eBay of government all the time, or eBay for government. Yeah.
That's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank
Or
you.
are you from our last conversation, it seems like you grew this pretty big, right? You guys are over 8 figures now.
Yeah, we'll do somewhere around $50 million in sales, auction sales this year.
Wow.
Serving
Congratulations.
so thank you, just over 6,000 governments nationwide. Our primary is the Northeast and Midwest. So if you go on
Yeah.
the site, that's where you'll see a lot of the equipment is from. But we have agencies scattered throughout the country, and we're still growing like crazy, which is surprising to me, quite frankly. I mean, we're doing the work for it, so
Yeah.
it's to see the return for those efforts. But yeah, we're seeing about 50 agencies a month still coming on
That's
board, making the
I,
switch over to us.
I didn't even know there were that many agencies because
Yeah,
I
depending
guess
on how you want to count it, there's either 92,000, and that's kind of splitting up,
wow.
apartments and that sort of thing. But you can look at it around 40,000 uh, governments in the U.S.
Now let me ask you this, right? Because you were in city council, you had the relationship to get the ball running.
Yeah.
And how did you spread it across 6,000? Because to me, that's mind blowing.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it was hard. It took a lot of time to get going. And
Mm,
honestly, quite frankly, it's still very difficult. So when we go into a state where we're not as strong as we are in the Northeast and
yeah.
Midwest, it's like selling, it's like day one selling all over again. And, because one of the first questions that we'll get from a prospective government is
Hmm.
not how many agencies in our state use us or use you,
Mm,
how many in our county. And we
wow.
could have the answer could be none at this point still, just
Yeah.
and so that sell is really the same sales we were making back then. And so
Wow.
it took about 5 years really for it to really get going. And I think in 2006, I think by the time we got the site launched and got a couple agencies using it, I mean, I think we
Hmm.
sold $8,000 worth. So it was super small, like it wasn't much happening. And with that said, that was also in the face of many people that I knew, that I looked up to, uh,
Hmm.
mentors of mine, other successful entrepreneurs, all telling me this would never work. It's too hard. It's not going to work. There's governments have all these problems and they're too slow and they don't like technology and blah, 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 blah. And I mean, which is all true.
Yeah. Yeah. No, no,
But I
that's true.
just persevered through it. And I knew that what we were doing was solving a real problem that
Yeah.
governments were having. So
Well, I'm curious, right? What has been like some of the feedback? Because I remember you shared that story with me about, when those first few auctions happened on the platform, how people were in awe on what was possible. Can you share a bit more about that?
yeah, sure. The very first item that was ever sold was a riding mower. And they wanted to maybe get $100 for it, and it sold for $500 for it. And they
Wow.
thrilled with it. They were like, "Wow, this is great." The very next item was an old police car with a blown in,
Hmm.
and again, the township was hoping to sell it for a couple $100, basically scrap value, essentially.
Wow.
And the auction's happening, and it gets to the final day, and there's a winning bid of $2,600.
Oh my God.
And the township called me and they said, "Hey, Greg, like, yeah, something's wrong with your website. There's, no way anyone's paying that much money for it." Literally the next day, the guy shows up with a check, takes the car away, and they couldn't believe it. They were thrilled. So obviously that
Yes.
was a great result and a testimonial that we could
Yeah.
take on the road. And then it was to the next town over. "Hey, did you hear what happened in Lower Pottsgrove? This,
Wow.
like, it's worth giving a shot." And then it was like that. And then another township sold a whole building worth of stuff, and they couldn't believe the results. So it was all these like really good testimonials and
Yeah.
results that we could sort of take on the road. And that literally was what it was, taking it on the road. And then we started attending some trade shows and doing that sort of thing. All the meanwhile, we had to bring in buyers too.
Huh.
So that was, it's a double-sided marketplace, which is very difficult. So it's like you have the sellers and you have the buyers.
How do you do
And
that?
well, so in the very beginning, it was a lot of grunt work and kind of feet on the ground. So basically,
Mm-hmm.
what I would do is I would make those flyers that you see when you go into a grocery store or a Home Depot that has those little rip off tabs at the bottom,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
and I
with
would
the
post like
numbers.
what's for sale, and then the website address on the bottom, and then we would run some local or run ads in those local like penny pincher style magazines.
Mm-hmm.
See like in the entrance of 7-Eleven. And so we'd run those kind of ads and we'd do some other local type advertising. We also did have the benefit that the governments were still required to run the legal ad. So instead
Mm,
of saying come to the town hall to fill out paperwork, it says go to Municibid for more information and place your.
gotcha,
So that
gotcha.
helped, even though no one actually looks at those things. So we couldn't rely on just that. So yeah, so we, that was kind of early days, and then there was a bit of a network effect. Then we got some PR,
Mm-hmm.
and now at this day we have an entire comprehensive marketing program with a marketing director and a whole team,
Mm,
and it's a big machine at this point.
I love it. Now, I'm curious, right? So, growing and building and running a $50 million company, what are some of the challenges you've seen throughout the stages of growth,
Mhm.
from that first million to the first 10 million to the first 25 million? What have you seen that's been a little bit different that you've learned from?
Well, and to be clear, when I say 50 million, I'm talking about what we refer to in the industry as gross merchandise value. So that's not
Gotcha.
revenue. So that I want to make that clear.
Good, good.
Yep. But nevertheless, it's still kind of the same. It's still this. The question is still valid.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's definitely some different stages with it. Again, we at this point we still look at our company as the scrappy startup, even though we're 18 years old at this point and doing very well. But that's just our attitude. We are.
Mm,
Let's get it out there. Let's iterate quickly. Let's be innovative. Let's apply technology where it is or where we can. And so, that all kind of feels like it remains the same, except
yeah.
it's just more professional at this point.
Nice.
And so, like, early on, it didn't need to be that professional. Now we're dealing with governments on one.
Yeah.
So it did have to have a certain level of professionalism. But as we continue to grow and mature, that's becoming more important. So I think that's kind of one area. The
Nice.
team is the other big area. Bringing on people that are true professionals. In the beginning, you're kind of bringing on people that are doing tasks
Yeah.
where you're kind of telling them what you need
What
done.
to do. Gotcha.
It flips a bit where you're bringing on people that kind of tell you what needs to be based on their experience. And so I would say that's another area that's
How was
changing.
that shift for you mentally, right? Going from telling people what to do to them telling you what to do.
Oh, I love it. I think I would encourage any entrepreneur to try to get to that point as quickly as possible. It's a game changer for your business when you have
That's awesome.
professionals with real experience that are better at
Yeah.
their thing than you are. That's I feel like the ultimate place to be.
Let me ask you this, right? Because these professionals, they're like A players. They're not just coming for the money. It's more to them. What have you found, from the interviewing process? Like, well, what's that thing that makes them say, okay, this is why I want to work with you?
Yeah, it's interesting. Obviously we get a lot of resumes and
Yeah.
we're kind of overwhelmed by that. But when we get on a call with them, or in certain cases meet them in person, we almost know right away. It's like
Really?
a vibe check. Yeah.
Huh.
After a few minutes talking, if they have what we're looking for, sort of on paper, right? Okay,
Yeah.
and it's coming down to a couple different candidates, and they're equal across the board, they're going to be able to do the job, right?
Mm-hmm.
The biggest thing for us is it a fit with our
Culture.
company and our
Yeah.
culture, and yeah, and we've been very lucky. We really have been, to have an awesome team. Like I am so
Mm,
grateful for the team that we have. um and I really feel like it, like, yeah, it's like having understanding the company's vibe and
yeah.
matching that with the candidate is certainly helpful. But at the same time, I feel like I'm good at that, but also I feel like I've gotten very lucky.
That's
So
awesome. So to kind of wrap things up, right? Because we were coming at the end. What would you say is that small biz tip that you would share with any entrepreneur from your journey for the past 18 plus years, that you think can benefit them?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a cliche piece of advice at this point, but hire as fast as you can. Um,
Mm,
and one, it's going to take a lot, and hire up if you can. It's
okay.
going to take a lot off your plate mentally. It's going to allow your brain to have a lot more free space to
Yeah.
think of new ideas because you're not bogged down by all the different tasks that are involved in all the different
Yeah.
roles. And yeah, if you can get to that space quicker, or that place quicker, that is my ultimate advice because it's going to be
Question.
a game changer for your business.
You said higher up. Can you
Yeah.
clarify that a little bit?
Yeah, basically hire people that are better at you than you are
Gotcha.
at what you're hiring for, essentially.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I love it. How do people reach you if they want to go to the platform, they want to, buy some of those government products? Like what do they need to do?
So we have municibid.com,
Hmm.
and that has all the information there. And then just recently, and we didn't get into it, maybe we'll do this another podcast sometime, but we just launched surplus.com, which is a similar
Ooh,
business to business marketplace for used equipment and surplus on business side.
wait a second. Tell us a little
Yeah.
bit more about that. I didn't know about that.
Yeah, that's something that we've been working on for quite a while. Our most of our the buyers on Municibid are
Hmm.
businesses, and they're always asking us for ways to sell their equipment. And with Municibid,
Wow.
we only allow governments to sell. It's open to the public
Yeah.
to buy, so anyone can buy. And again, most of them are businesses, but they'll come to us and say, "Hey, we have this dump truck, or we have this snow plow, or
Hmm.
these all these pavers left over that we're trying to sell." And Facebook Marketplace is not really a place for them. Craigslist, all the issues with that. And so there's really not that one place for businesses to sell, to
Wow.
help businesses. So
That's huge.
launched this actually 3 months ago.
Congrats.
And so it's very early days with it in what I think will be a decades long business. But yeah, it's pretty
So
exciting.
it's
So
it's what's
yeah.
called surplus bid.
Surplus doc. Nope, just surplus.com.
Surplus.com. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Greg, this was awesome. How do people reach you if they want to talk to you or connect with you?
Yeah, I'm at Greg M. Berry on all the socials if you want to hit me up that way. And at Municibid on all the socials as well.
Fantastic. Guys, definitely check out Greg, check out Municibid, and check out surplus.com. I'm definitely gonna go check out surplus because
All
that's
right.
exciting. Thanks
Thanks.
for coming on, man.
That's been great. Thank you, Gilbert.